Hey, hi everyone. A very good evening to our audience. I am excited to see that we have such a great turnout today. I'm Justin and I'll be your host for tonight's episode of our Ask Me Anything webinar series. So tonight we are going to find out more on will versus trust, which is right for you. Are you unsure whether a will or a trust is better suited for your estate planning needs? Well, tonight we will delve into the key differences between wills and trusts and what are their respective advantages and how they can play a crucial role in your estate planning. So whether you're just starting to think about your legacy or are you looking to refine your existing plans, we really hope that this webinar will provide valuable insights to help you make informed decisions. So I'm sure everyone here has some burning questions, so let's get started. Well, before that, may I request that you type in your questions in the bottom Q&A button, and the speakers will come to it at the end where we have our Q&A segment. And for the audience, we are live on Zoom and Facebook. And before I introduce our speakers for tonight, I must assure all of you here that there will be no selling during tonight's webinar. We want this to be completely educational. So let's keep this session lighthearted and sit back and relax and enjoy your time here while our speakers will share some of their thoughts and views. Yeah. So if you are watching us, please feel free to share this with your other friends whom you think would benefit from this fireside chat, and where you can ask all your questions about wills and trusts live to our very own financial specialists. Okay, I will introduce them now. I'm very thrilled to introduce three of our financial specialists tonight. So each of them have, very different life and industry experiences and perspectives. And they are Claudia Tan, Financial Services Director, Teck Hua, Wealth Manager, and Halyn Chai, our Executive Director of Phillip Trustee. So each of them will share with us their unique viewpoints and expertise for today's topic. So let's find out a little bit about them. So firstly, we have our Financial Services Director and veteran, Claudia Tan. So ever since I've met Claudia, I've always known her to be generous when it comes to sharing her knowledge, and which is also why that we have invited her this evening. So hi, Claudia, would you like to say something to our audience?
Oh, hi everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. And thanks, Justin, for introducing me. I'm a financial services director in the financial industry for nearly 20 years. So throughout this time, I have been providing effective financial planning to many individuals and helping them better understand the important things to take note when planning for their loved ones. I believe some of us here may experience analysis paralysis, thinking too much, analyzing too much, but no action was taken because the situation for our loved one are unique and we can't decide how to address all of them accordingly. We can handle the situation when we are alive, but how to handle the situation when we have passed on is a concern that all of us share. So I hope today I can provide some ideas and solutions for everyone who has tuned in. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia, for the introduction. So wow, 20 years in the industry. So what a treat for us tonight. Yep. Okay, next we have our second speaker, Wealth Manager Teck Hua. So having done seminars and written articles on will writing, I know that Teck Hua is certainly passionate and enthusiastic towards tonight's topic. So hi Teck Hua, will you please say hi to our audience?
Hi, thank you, Justin. Good evening, everyone. My name is Teck Hua. I appreciate you for taking the time to join us today. Just a very quick intro about myself. I've been with PhillipCapital for the last 15 years. My current position is a wealth manager, advising my clients on all financial related matters ranging from insurance all the way to investment. So personally, I took a deep interest in estate planning because this is the commonly missing jigsaw piece in everybody's financial puzzle. And more importantly, overlooking this very crucial aspect can have very profound and far-reaching consequences for your family and loved ones. So today, let's explore these two common tools in estate planning, namely the will and the trust. So it is my hope to be able to provide you with the valuable insights that will enhance your understanding of these tools and perhaps even empowering you to take your first step towards estate planning. Regardless, I hope all of you here will enjoy the sharing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Teck Hua, for the introduction. So last but not least, we have our Executive Director of Phillip Trustee, Ms. Halyn Chai. So with a career of over 19 years in the trust and corporate industries, Halyn has great experience serving high net worth clients in estate and succession planning using trust solutions. Hi, Halyn. Would you like to say hi to our audience?
Hello, Justin. Hello, and good evening, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be part of tonight's program. So just to share a little bit of my background, I have been a full-time trust practitioner for the past 14 years and is a member of the Society of Trust and Estate Practitioner in the UK. So in 2023, I joined PhillipCapital in the mission to add on legacy solution to their existing wealth management platform. So Phillip Trustee is incorporated mainly to offer trust services. We obtained our license in July last year, and since then, we have been engaging with wealth advisors from inside and outside of Singapore. So tonight, together with Claudia and Teck Hua, I hope to be able to share some useful insights with our audience about wills and trust planning.
Thank you, Halyn, for the introduction, and also to introduce Phillip Trust. Thank you, Halyn. Thanks for also introducing Phillip Trustee to our audience. So, yeah, I think we will find out a lot more tonight. Yeah. Okay, so that's the introduction for our guests tonight. So now, before we start off with our first question, right, let's look at this article from the Straits Times. Yeah, maybe can I get one of our speakers to share with us what's the article about and your thoughts on it, please? How about Teck Hua? Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is a typical case of a family members fighting over inheritance due to ambiguous arrangement of the deceased. So when there's ambiguity, it is not surprising that every beneficiary will tend to interpret the deceased intention in the way that serves their interest. So let me try to condense the story here for the benefit of our audience who haven't read the article yet. So basically the deceased, Dr. Koo here, he left a will to gift his wife a sum of $80,000, and the remaining estate is to be divided equally among his 4 children. But however, as he was undergoing through medical treatment for cancer, he converted both his bank accounts to be jointly owned, one with his wife and the other one with his eldest daughter. So because we know that jointly owned assets follow the rules of survivorship, that would mean that the funds in the bank actually belongs to the surviving joint owner instead of the distribution plan stated in the will. So the remaining 3 children, of course, argued that, hey, this wasn't daddy's intention, right? So the joint arrangement was merely an act of convenience, just in case that the family require access to the funds, and it's not meant to be given to the joint owner. So I have seen really far too many similar cases of such jointly owned asset and convenience arrangement which were contested, leaving to the court to determine, what is the most likely intention of the deceased. So the important takeaway here is really not about whether or not a will can or cannot override jointly owned asset. The lesson here is to be aware of such potential pitfalls, and then how can we take steps to minimize such things from happening, especially to you. So in my view, no matter what's the outcome of the court, nobody here is a winner because the relationship in the family is already torn. And this is definitely not what the testator would have wanted or how he wished to be remembered. Justin?
Thank you so much, Teck Hua, for giving our audience a summary of the article. And yes, it's true that it's crucial to ensure that your assets are distributed according to your intentions, and all this to avoid familial complications. Okay, how about Halyn? Anything to add?
Thanks, Justin. I guess another takeaway from this article is to ensure that our estate planning documentation are consistent and they convey our intentions in the clear and concise manner, and which also include regular review and updating of the estate plan, and more importantly, in communicating them as well to our family members, so to avoid this type of unfortunate situation.
Thank you, Halyn. Okay, now before we go on to the first question of the night, let's find out a little bit about our audience today by doing this little poll. So I will flash the poll. Okay, so poll number 1, do you already have a will or a trust? So 1, yes, I do, and 2, no, I don't think I need one yet. So if you are on Facebook, you can comment in the chat box your answer. And if you are on Zoom, just click in your answer. And we shall wait another 1 minute for the results to come in. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Wow, okay, quite close, I would say. But okay, looks most of our audience, 60% chose yes, I do. While 40% also chose no, I don't think I need one yet. So that's good news, I guess, for those who said yes. But those who said no, I don't think I need one yet. Do you really not? So let's find out more tonight. Yeah. Okay. Now let's start off with our first question of the evening. What exactly is the fundamental difference between a will and a trust? Claudia, would you like to share with us first?
Yes, Justin, allow me to share first. Okay, a will, also known as a last will and testament, is a legal document that outlines how a person's assets should be distributed after their death. It can also include instructions regarding the care of minor children, the management of trust, and the appointment of an executor and trustee to ensure that the will's provisions are carried out. On the other hand, a trust is a legal arrangement where one party, known as the trustee, holds and manages assets on behalf of the settlor, who is the person who creates the trust. Trust can be used for various purposes, including managing assets during the settlor's lifetime, providing for minor and individual with special needs, and managing charitable donations. Teck Hua, would you like to share your view?
Oh, sure. Thank you, Claudia. For maybe easy understanding, there are generally two reasons when a trust will come into play. First of all, when the asset cannot be immediately distributed to the beneficiary. Usually, in this case, is when the beneficiary is still a minor. Okay. The second reason is when the client do not want to distribute the assets all at once upon his or her demise. So given the amount of wealth Singaporeans have nowadays, right, many parents are actually not very comfortable with the idea of their children inheriting everything all at once at a very young age. Therefore, setting up trusts for the purpose of delayed gifting is getting more and more common. I believe Halyn can attest to that. Right, Halyn?
Yes, Teck Hua, just to add on to what Claudia and Teck Hua had shared, so the fundamental difference between the two is the distribution timing. With will, the assets are distributed shortly after the death of a person. And on the other hand, the timing of the distribution can be delayed with using a trust. And that can be incorporated into a longer term succession planning that could benefit more than one future generations. So for the benefit of our audience, in case if you're not aware, under the Singapore Trust Law, a trust can last up to 100 years, which makes the delayed distribution possible. Justin, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, speakers. And there we have it. So the difference between a will and a trust is that a will outlines how assets are distributed after death, while trust involves a trustee managing assets for the settlor and is useful for lifetime management. And this is especially for parents who do not want to give inheritance to underage children. Thank you. Thank you, speakers. Let's move on to our next question. When is it appropriate to use a will or trust for estate planning, or can they actually work together? Teck Hua, would you like to go first?
Oh, sure. In my view, will and trust are not an either-or proposition. Okay, both of them can serve very important purpose in comprehensive estate planning. Most people in general, however, only requires a will without the trust. But those with a trust setup, a will may remain essential to ensure that, whichever assets that are not already in the trust can then be transferred into the trust upon the demise of the settlor. Claudia, maybe you'd like to add on?
Sorry. Thanks, Teck Hua. All right. The choice between setting up a will or a trust depends on individual circumstances, including the size and complexity of the estate, the needs for privacy, and the desire to avoid grant of probate. A will and a trust each serve different purposes and can complement each other in estate planning. A will is essential for addressing specific bequests, guardianship of minor children, and instruction for any asset not included in a trust. So will is necessary document so long as you are holding on to any asset. A trust is beneficial for maintaining privacy, managing asset during incapacity, and providing ongoing management of estate. Using both together can create a comprehensive and effective estate plan tailored to your specific needs and goals. Halyn, would you like to add on?
Yeah, thanks, Claudia. In simplest term, I would say that will is definitely a necessity so to ensure your assets are passed on to the loved one as you intended. So for trust, which is a more sophisticated solutions, it is used to address issues, more complex estate planning issues. So when it is suitable, the combination of will and trust can offer other enhanced benefit, such as asset protection, intergenerational wealth succession, wealth preservation, tax planning in certain situations, and not to forget families with vulnerable beneficiaries, like children with disabilities or ailing parents. Justin?
Thank you. Thank you, speakers, for your insights. For the audience, our speakers highlighted that the choice between a will and a trust depends on the estate's complexity and specific needs. So while a will is a necessity, as mentioned by Halyn, a trust can complement it by addressing complex issues such as privacy and also support for vulnerable beneficiaries. So it seems that also using both can really provide a well-rounded estate plan. Okay, let's move on to our second poll of the night. So poll number 2, what are some concerns you have when setting up a will or a trust? One would be costs associated with setting up and maintenance. 2, and understanding legal requirements and validity of documents. 3, accessibility of the will or trust when needed. And 4, selecting the right executor or trustee. So same thing, if you're on Zoom, feel free to click your answer. If you're on Facebook, you can just comment. Yeah. Okay, can we have the results already? Okay, so wow, all right. We have the highest one, 67% of you said that costs associated with setting up and maintenance. This is followed by selecting the right executor or trustee, and the minority actually chose accessibility of the will or trust when needed. Okay, thank you. Let's address these concerns. We will address them in our upcoming questions. So now let's move on. Next question. For the highest number, 67%. For those who had concerns over the cost for setting up and maintenance of a will or trust, can our speakers share with us, please? Yeah. Claudia, you want to go first?
Yes, Justin. Okay, understand the concern. Cost implication of setting up a will versus a trust can vary significantly. Now, wills are generally less expensive during setup, but it incurred additional probate costs after the death of the testator, who is the person who has made a will or given a legacy. Probate and legal fee can cost about 3,000 or more, depending on the complexity of the will. Whereas trust involves higher upfront costs due to the more complex nature of the document and will have ongoing administration and trustee fees. However, will and trust both have different uses. Cost should not be the main deciding factor behind the choices one should make. Do you agree, Teck Hua?
Yes, I guess it's also good to know that you can even write your own will without assistance from a lawyer or will writer. But of course, I'm not suggesting for you to do so because the risk involved is really not worth the saving. Especially nowadays, I think a will can be done in under $200-300. So in fact, if a will is poorly crafted, it can lead to unintended legal implication, increased probability of the will being contested, or in the worst case, the will may not even be valid. So when it comes to charges for trust, I think maybe Halyn will be in a better position to share. Halyn?
Thanks, Teck Hua. So logically, trust is more expensive to maintain because of the enhanced benefit I mentioned earlier. And I agree with Claudia, when it comes to estate planning, especially where it involves substantial assets. Cost should not be the main deciding factor. So put it this way, every bit of effort we put into a well thought out estate plan can save our future generations from a lot of hassles and unnecessary complications. And of course, as we have seen with the article shared by Justin earlier, possibly avoiding damaging family disputes. Justin, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's so I guess that it's clear that while cost is an important factor, the choice between creating or setting up a will and a trust, it actually should be guided by the specific needs and benefits that they offer, and rather than just the initial expense. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to our next question. So this question very straightforward. Can I nominate CPF into my trust? Yeah, Teck Hua, you want to go first?
Okay, let me try to answer this. There are many different kinds of trusts, but we can broadly classify them into two kinds, okay? An inter vivos trust is a kind of trust that's set up while the person is still alive. So hence, it is also called a living trust. The other one is called a testamentary trust. It's only set up only after the person passes on, usually with embedded instructions in the will. So hence, this is also known as the will trust. So just so you know, you can nominate your CPF into a living trust, but you cannot nominate it into a testamentary trust. Claudia, maybe you would like to elaborate further?
Yes, Teck Hua, allow me to elaborate further. Now, you can certainly nominate CPF into your standalone trust and allow trustee to manage it or to invest it and distribute your CPF money according to your instruction. Your CPF money can be quite substantial, and a lump sum payout may not be suitable, especially if your beneficiary is young or vulnerable. Young beneficiary may not know how to handle the money, and they could spend it overnight. Older beneficiary may not know how to protect the asset from scammer. So one important point to highlight, for CPF nomination, or in fact any form of nomination, there is no options available for substitute beneficiary, which means if you nominate a single beneficiary, in the event of his or her passing, your nomination will be void, and this particular asset will be distributed under the intestate law. So make sure you address this concern during your nomination. Do take note that nomination is very, very different from will writing. Back to you, Justin.
Thank you. Thanks, speakers. Thanks, Teck Hua, for clarifying that you can only nominate CPF into a living trust, but not to a testamentary trust. And yes, this is particularly useful if the beneficiary is young or vulnerable, as as you guys said, they might not be able to handle a lump sum well. All right, let's move on. Now, next question. Can I do without a will? I think I know the answer to this question, but let's hear why from our speakers.
All right, Justin, maybe I take this question. Okay.
Yeah, Claudia, you can. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sure. Now, someone who owns an asset before passing needs a will to distribute it. Jointly owned means that you are still owning it and you will certainly need a will. So for example, if you are having joint ownership for your property with your spouse, and assuming your spouse is older than you, in the event of a common disaster where both owners pass on at the same time, the younger owner, which is yourself, will be deemed as the last survivor and become the rightful owner of the property. If you do not have a will, this property will have to be distributed under the intestate law, which may not be your intention. So unless you are someone who owns zero assets during your lifetime and have zero possibility of receiving any asset, then I agree you do not need a will. Teck Hua, what do you think?
Yes. A lot of people, a lot of clients that I met also have the impression that if all their assets are either jointly owned or nominated, they do not require a will. Just understand that there are many possible pitfalls with such arrangement. I'm also curious too, if you do not own any asset because all of them were given away, who then takes care of your outstanding debts or final expenses? In conclusion, I think creating joint account or having nomination doesn't negate the need for a will. A well-planned will actually provide important instructions like who is the guardian of your child, what are the alternative arrangement if any of your beneficiary were to pass on before you, predecease you. And usually there's a catch-all clause also, which will cover every asset that you might have missed out. Yeah, Justin?
Thank you. So, while there are methods to manage assets without a will, it clearly shows that having one would clearly provide clarity and security, helping to ensure that your assets are distributed according to your intentions, and it can actually minimize potential legal and familial complications. Yeah, thanks, Claudia and Teck Hua for shedding light on this one. Now let's move on to our final poll of the night. So our poll number 3, are you aware of the latest 2024 CPF changes? Oh, sorry, I think I read the wrong line. What is the primary reason you're considering setting up a will or trust? Yeah. Number 1, ensuring the financial security of your loved ones. And 2, managing and distributing business assets. 3, planning for incapacity or unexpected events. And lastly, avoiding family conflicts and disputes over assets. Yeah. Once again, if you're on Zoom, just click on your answer and we shall wait a minute for the results to come in. Okay, quite close. Okay, 68%, majority actually chose number 1, ensuring the financial security of your loved ones. I think that's really the number 1 concern when it comes to mostly everyone here. 57%, avoiding family conflicts and dispute over assets. Yeah, very important factor. And just followed by planning for incapacity or unexpected events. Okay, thanks. Let's move back to the questions. Now, let's move on to the next one. How often should I review and update my will or trust? Claudia, you want to share with us how often?
All right. Regular review and update to your will and trust are essential to ensure that your estate plan remain effective and reflective of your current wishes. As a financial advisor and estate planner, I strongly encourage everyone to at least review your will or trust every 3 to 5 years, especially when there has been a new significant life event like new marriage, divorce, newborn, or passing of beneficiary. Even if there is no significant changes in your life, regular review help to ensure that the documents are up to date with current law and reflect any changes to your intention. Would you like to share your view, Teck Hua?
Thank you, Claudia. Reviewing your will or trust with your advisor on a regular basis is definitely important. Maybe I'd like to add that when planning your will and trust, it is very important to designate alternative plan or backup appointees. This reduces the need to rewrite a will if anything were to happen to the appointed personnel, right? So also it is a very good practice to have a filing system where you can collate all your accounts, like your bank account, your CDP statement, your digital assets, for example. This will actually help to facilitate the executor in identifying all your assets and applying for the grant of probate. Halyn?
Thanks, Teck Hua. I suppose as trustee, I would recommend reviewing your estate planning as often as once a year, because I think this is one of the most important aspects when it comes to looking after our family and loved one, as the polling have shown. So you may not end up making any changes to your will or trust after the yearly stock take, but it helps in reflecting your deep personal wishes, and it will keep your estate planning on track in case if there's any changes. So Claudia and Teck Hua has highlighted that, this is especially true for someone who is going through a life-altering event. So as such, you may adopt a new outlook that will have an impact on the plan that you had already previously set in motion. Justin?
Thank you, speakers, for your insights on the importance of regular reviewing and updating our wills and trusts. So I guess we can safely say that regular reviews and updates of wills and trusts are crucial to maintaining an effective estate plan. Looks like whether it's every few years or, like Halyn said, annually, these reviews can really ensure that your documents they remain current and are aligned with your evolving circumstances and intentions. Thanks. Let's move on. Now, let's move on to the next question. Can our speakers actually share some real-life examples where choosing a will or trust makes significant difference in the outcome for the beneficiaries, or not choosing to create or set up one had notable consequences? Yeah, I think Claudia would have something to share first.
Yes, I would like to share this case. Now, this lady was a divorcee who passed away a few years ago. She believed in estate planning and changed her will when she finalized the divorce because she knew that a divorce does not void an earlier will. Her new will was well drafted. She had appointed her friend to be the executor and trustee. She appointed the same friend as the guardian for her son, who was 11 years old then. She had given her house and all bank account to her only son, appointed a substitute candidate in case anyone was unable to carry out their duty. She also included a residuary clause in case she acquired more asset later in life. Upon her passing, the appointed guardian took care of her son and managed all her assets since her son was a minor. 10 years later, when the son turned 21, he was told by the guardian that his mother's assets had been exhausted because she had spent everything on him. There is no need for accounting records since his mother had trusted the guardian. His mother had actually left behind a condominium and 1 million in cash. With this amount of money, this asset of money, which could have been better preserved if a trust has been set up and properly managed. With proper management, I believe this boy would have been able to receive his mother's hard-earned money instead of nothing. It's quite a sad case, actually. Yeah, back to you, Justin.
Yeah, thanks, Claudia, for the sharing. Yes, indeed, how unfortunate. A condominium and 1 million in cash. Yeah, if only there was a trust in place. Now, how about Teck Hua?
Okay, this is the article I'd like to share. I'm not sure how many of you here has actually seen this article. This is a case of a Changi airport worker who was killed in a freak accident many years back. So the Changi group actually raises fund, and along with some insurance payout, the family of the deceased received roughly about $1 million in payout. And the picture that you see in this article, right, is the state of the family 1 year later. So the purpose of sharing this article is really to highlight the importance of delayed gifting. Sometimes, like a lottery effect, a lot of people are just not equipped with the financial maturity or mindset to handle a large sum of money. Sometimes it's also not because that your beneficiaries are spendthrift. Yeah, we need to know that money attracts opportunists. Certainly, you do not want your beneficiaries to be surrounded by vultures, right? On the other hand, as a parent myself, I'm also very mindful not to remove the desire to strive in life by giving my children the false image of abundance, which may unintendedly cripple them in life. So a trust setup with a well-planned instructions can really assist to provide the necessary support while preserving your hard-earned wealth. Justin?
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Teck Hua. Definitely, I guess it's also important to not only consider the financial habits of our beneficiaries, but it's also important to, to consider the potential external influences that they may face. Yeah, thank you, Teck Hua, for the sharing. Okay, last, how about you, Halyn?
Thanks, Justin. Well, I don't have a selected articles that I like to share because there are just so many interesting stories and newspaper articles these days. So instead, I've shortlisted a few of them to highlight the different areas of consideration for our audience. So there's really not enough time for us to go through the specific on this program, but I will highly encourage interested parties to just go online and search these articles, for your own information. These cases really highlight different scenarios and pitfalls when we do not have a proper estate planning. So the main lesson from the articles is that, well, there are things that are beyond our control in life. So it's just better to plan early than to regret later.
Thank you, Halyn, for the sharing. Yes, unfortunately, we don't have enough time for tonight to go through the articles. But do feel free to search them up online, if you would like to. So yeah, thank you, speakers, for sharing. Now let's move on to our next question. Okay, now I think this is what we intend for this webinar to be for our audience. What steps should someone take to get started with creating a will or trust? Yeah, Claudia, what steps should we take?
Thanks, Justin. Now, everyone should begin with a clear understanding of their asset and wishes. I will address for will writing, and perhaps Teck Hua and Halyn can address on trust. For creating a will, you need to know your assets and liability. Decide on beneficiary and their ability to handle the asset. Choose an executor and trustee. Name guardian for minor children. Sign your will in front of two witnesses who are not related to any of your beneficiary. Okay, and lastly, store your will safely. So after going through the above, always remember to input all the important details in your will. Would you like to add on, Teck Hua?
One common reason that I face when many people cannot decide on the distribution plan is because they're always thinking about possible future changes, right? So I always ask my client to imagine that if death were to occur in the coming days, touch wood, but how then would you divide your estate based on the current circumstances? And who can you really entrust to handle the distribution? So start by listing all your assets and liability as what Claudia mentioned, then list the people whom you wish to provide for. That will help you have a better understanding or have a better picture of how to plan your distribution. Also, if you have minor beneficiaries, consider possible guardian and trustee. If you need some form of delayed gifting, then you need to seek professional help to really discuss what kind of trust setup is actually most suitable for your desired distribution intent. Right, Halyn? Did I miss out anything?
Well, thanks, Teck Hua. I think both you and Claudia have covered a wide ground of what they need to do. Perhaps if you allow me, I would summarize it by asking myself 4 questions. So first, do I need asset protection? Secondly, do you have substantial wealth that you want to pass on to your grandchildren? It's not your children, but your grandchildren. So in the industry, we call this the intergenerational wealth succession. Third one, do I need to consider tax planning? And this may be necessary if you have children or grandchildren who are living outside of Singapore. So the fourth question would be, do I have concerns with vulnerable beneficiaries? So this can be children with some form of mental or physical disabilities or elderly parents that require special care. Yeah. So if you answer yes to any of these questions, then you really need to think bigger in terms of your estate planning. So definitely please discuss your concern with your financial advisors, your estate planners, or even the trust advisors if you know one. It is really important to address them if you have these concerns. Justin, back to you.
Thank you, speakers. It's essential to start with a clear understanding of your assets and wishes to ensure that your estate plan meets all of your needs and goals. And I guess if you don't want or you are unsure of how to take these steps alone, Teck Hua is definitely right that consulting an advisor to determine the most suitable setup is definitely a key step. So I guess that brings us to our next slide. So now, before we move on to our Q&A section, we definitely welcome our audience here to connect with PhillipCapital or with any of our financial specialists tonight. If you would like to know more about tonight's topic or any other questions related to your financial well-being, please feel free to reach out to our speakers by scanning the QR code. Yeah, I'm sure from tonight that we can see that Claudia, Teck Hua, and Halyn here, they are always very generous in sharing all these value-added financial tips to their clients and also to our followers here. Yeah. Okay, for those of you who are enjoying webinars like this one, our Ask Me Anything webinars, and would like to stay connected with us to receive more updates, do give us a like and follow us on our Facebook and Instagram page. Yeah, you can just find them by typing out Phillip Wealth Advisory. Yes. Okay, so now for the exciting part of the night, let's get on with the Q&A section. I can see that we have quite a lot of questions. So okay, we'll start with let me just pull them. We do have quite a lot of questions. We'll start with okay. Okay, we have a question from anonymous attendee. HDB flat is allowed to exist inside a trust or cannot? Thank you for your question. Yeah, Teck Hua, would you like to take this question?
The answer is no. HDB cannot be held in trust. Only private property can be held in trust.
You, Teck Hua. It's a very short answer. Just no.
Can you want me to, can I
thanks
add
for
on?
Because you
yeah,
mentioned
Claudia,
that,
feel free.
yes.
Yeah, and it is not only private property, and it must be a fully paid private
Free
property.
from encumbrance.
Then yes, then only you can be held under a standalone trust or living trust, you call that. Yeah. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. Yeah. Okay, we have another question from anonymous attendee. Can we give instructions to CPF to transfer the funds or a percentage of it to your beneficiary's CPF account, or instead of getting it all in cash when we pass on? Thanks for the question. I think Claudia, you can take this question, right?
Yes, certainly you can. For CPF nomination, you can choose a direct payout in cash or request to put into the beneficiary's CPF account. So the CPF account, it will form part of the CPF fund. So the beneficiary can only draw those money when they reach their retirement age, actually. Yeah. So for more detail, I urge everyone to contact CPF directly in case there's any latest changes on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Okay, we have another question on trust. Okay, is it possible to have more than one trust, each trust taking care of different set of assets? Yeah, I think this is a question for Halyn.
Thanks, Justin. Definitely, yes, you can have more than one trust set up for different purposes. But because there is cost involved in maintaining a trust structure, so it is possible also to consider setting up one trust that could possibly address multiple objectives. But depending on the specific of the objective, so which is the better solution, we'll have to discuss in a much longer conversation. Yeah, but in short, the answer to this individual's question is that yes, you can.
Thank you. Thanks, Halyn. All right, we have a question from Yu Chong here. Can overseas assets be included in the will or trust done in Singapore? My local lawyer strongly encouraged me to engage overseas lawyer to handle overseas assets accordingly. Is that correct? Yeah. Teck Hua, you want to take this question?
So there are two parts to this question. I think the reason why your local lawyer is advising you to seek consultation with a foreign lawyer is because I guess there are certain implications, certain legal requirements, like maybe estate duties and stuff like that when handling, especially real estate in foreign land. So the purpose is to make sure that all these are clear. But generally, if you want to write a will that takes care of everything, including your overseas asset, it is possible. But the rule of thumb is always not to do so, because there's also another issue is that if you include all your assets, for example, if let's say I have property in UK and Philippines, and I write one single will to take care of everything. So for the probate process, it becomes very complicated. The executor have to first apply for the probate to settle all the assets in SG, in locally. Then after finishing distribution, then he can close the case and bring the will to the foreign, to Philippines, reseal the will, distribute the Philippine property. Then after that, bring the will again to UK to reseal the will and distribute the UK property. So to prevent all this, we will always advise client to write multiple will to take care of the different assets in different country. So all these probate can run concurrently. Justin.
Thank you, Teck Hua. Yeah, thanks for your answer. Okay, we have another question from Anonymous. When I have an insurance nomination and a will done, will they supersede each other? Claudia, you can take this question.
Yeah. Now, will and nomination are two separate documents. And in fact, nomination takes more priority than will. What it means is, if you have done a nomination, followed by a will a month later, for example, the will will not override nomination. And if you have done an insurance nomination, okay, make sure you gotten acknowledgement from insurance company. Now, all the insurance company has six forms, in fact, to allow you to manage your nomination. So talk to your financial advisor and insurance company, okay? If you have done a will, you can inform the insurance company that you have done the will. This particular insurance are to be directly paid out to your beneficiary. And if you decided to change a will or void it or change your intention, you can also inform the insurance company. There's a form available for that purpose. Okay, so will not address anything that has been nominated, even though you give a blanket will. Okay, thank you. I hope I answered that question correctly.
Thank you, Claudia. I hope you understood that question. Yeah. Okay, next we have a question from HYU. Thank you for your question. How does trust address privacy issues versus will? Halyn, can you take this question?
Okay, in Singapore, there is no requirement to register a trust. So a person who set up a trust, the arrangement is private in the sense that it's only privy to the people who are involved in the process. So if there's no public registration per se, so the information about your private family trust is not available in the public space, right? So this is what it means when there is a certain level of privacy. Will, on the other hand, I suppose, the deposit of the will with the will registry, some may take that as a bit of a lack of a little bit of privacy, although, not everybody can access it, right, without the proper authorization. Yeah. So I guess to address that question is more coming from a trust point of view, because unlike a company, you don't need to register a trust. So no information on private family trust is available out there.
Thank you, Halyn. I think while we are answering, since you are at that one, I just saw one question that I think you can quite answer. So it's from Anonymous again. What is the average cost of setting up a simple trust? Yeah.
Oh, I'm afraid this is a really general questions. It really depends. I would say as a simple setup cost, it would minimally start at a few $1,000s. But again, depending on what you like to accomplish, there are different type of trusts that you can consider. So I would much prefer, if you're interested to know more, please reach out to me, and I much prefer to take this conversation offline, and then to answer any specific questions that you have in mind.
Thank you, Halyn. Yes, later we will flash the contact us slide again later at the end, so you guys can reach out to any of our speakers for these questions. Okay, let's take one from Kelren Go. Where can one keep his will after it is done, so that it can be executed upon one's death? Yeah, Claudia, you want to take this question?
If the will is drafted by a trustee company, in some trustee company, they provide will custody in places like Cisco or Iron Mountain. That is one way to do it. The other way is you can keep it somewhere safe, but make sure your loved one or somebody that you are close to or your executor or trustee know exactly where you store it. Because in the event of passing, this person that you have appointed must be able to access your will and then carry it out. Without a will, if they cannot find the original copy, it's as good as not having a will. And your estate may be distributed under a intestate law. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Claudia. I think I have one more question here that you can answer. So from Anonymous again, must a will be registered with the Ministry of Law to ensure that it is official?
No, it does not. To have an official will, it must have two witnesses and the original copy, but you do not need to register. Registration is to facilitate and make it easy in case no one knows where you keep the will. At least the registration, okay, allow your executor or your trustee to, try to find where the location of the will. Yeah, but it's not a compulsory to keep the will in order to make it legal or official. Thank you.
Thank you. Teck Hua, we have a question here for you. Yeah. Hi, Teck Hua. Can the administrator of the will or trust be one of the beneficiaries?
Again, for the administrator or the executor, can they be one of the beneficiaries? The answer is yes. The short answer is yes. But I also see a few questions, I think, asking regarding can the beneficiary become the witness of the will? In that case, cannot. Okay, there are certain formality of the will that we have to adhere to. One of them is that the witness required is to be 21 years of age, not the beneficiary of the testator or the spouse of the beneficiary. Yeah. Justin?
Thank you, Teck Hua. Halyn, we have a few questions here asking about the same thing. So they are asking what is the minimum asset value to set up a trust?
Again, I would say, just to bring back to one of the points that we brought up, right? The consideration, so this is possibly you're considering the cost, the need factor, okay, versus the cost. So sometimes I think the threshold, there is technically no legal requirement, but of course, that's because there is cost involved in the setup and the administration. So it has to make sense from a cost perspective. But there are instances where the need outweighs the cost factor, so which makes the threshold an irrelevant point. Yeah, so I'll simply put it this way. But if it's purely just for a sense, right, I would say you will not set up a trust for a mere $50,000, estate planning, because it just simply won't make sense. I mean, as far as the ceiling goes, I would say, the bigger the amount, the more cost effective it is. Yeah. But anything more than that, again, I would encourage the individual to please reach out. I'll be happy to deep dive into this question. And Claudia, if you wanted to add on to this.
Yeah, fully agree with Halyn. It's more on need-based rather than looking at purely the cost. Because if in the situation whereby perhaps you might be thinking you have only 500,000 and yearly wise, the trustee is going to charge you maybe few $1,000s and you think it's not worth it. But if without a trust in place and your few $100,000 just gone overnight, it's even more detrimental. So have to look at the needs, ask yourself, without a trust, what can be done to address this concern? If you can find a better solution, of course you may proceed. But if not, then I believe trust is a suitable and wonderful solution to address your concern. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Claudia and Halyn. Okay, there's this question here that even I actually also quite curious, and I think that I want to hear from Claudia and Teck Hua. Maybe Claudia can go first. This question is from Anonymous. Thank you for the question. How to evaluate a good estate advisor? Yeah, Claudia, want to answer this?
Okay, to evaluate a good estate planner, okay, firstly, I believe this person must have good understanding of your background, of your situation. Okay, the estate planner must be able to analyze and understand your need. But of course, in the contrary, okay, as a client or as a testator who eventually is going to write a will, must be willing to share. Yeah, because without proper sharing, okay, without proper understanding, we cannot give a detailed planning. So it comes hand in hand. What do you think, Teck Hua?
Claudia, thanks. I think to answer this question, generally, I think the most important thing is that the heart of the estate planner must be with the client to begin with. So I never believe that a more expensive will is a better will. The key thing is really for me while planning for my client is always to firstly understand the entire situation. Secondly, to find out or to sniff out any possible pitfall and then highlighting to client. Because sometimes not all the so-called original distribution intention is ideal. Yeah. So for example, like some of the clients may think that, okay, leaving my HDB property, to be shared among my children, for example. This kind of very simple instruction can have a lot of implication. For example, if your children it will actually so-called if they were to inherit the HDB, it may jeopardize them getting their own property in the future. And there are also situations where your children may already own HDB property and they are unable to inherit the HDB. Situation like this. So I hope I cover everything. Justin?
Thank you, Claudia and Teck Hua. Yes, thank you for the answer. Okay, I think we're running a little bit late, so we'll take another one or two more questions. There's one question that I think I will take the question. So it's from Anonymous. May I know if there is any replay for tonight's session? In case anyone else is wondering, yes, we will be sending out the recording to all of our registrants here tonight. Maybe within the next 2 days lah. So yes, there will be a replay for tonight's session. Okay, we have another question. Maybe I want to ask Halyn. So the question, how do I go about looking for a lawyer if I wish to set up a trust? Yeah, taking the steps already. Halyn, would you want to answer this?
Thanks, Justin. Well, you don't necessarily need to look for a lawyer. Please know that there are many licensed trust companies in Singapore. So you can go online, just look for licensed trust company in Singapore, and then you will find a lot of options. So it's about going and looking for a company that, that meets with your needs and requirements. Sometimes it's also about chemistry. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight to this person that not necessarily only a lawyer can help you. But of course, there are a lot of licensed trust practitioners out there that could assist. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you, Halyn. Okay, we'll take one last question. I think there's this question by Darren Tan. Thank you for the question. HDB flat can be included in a will. Claudia, you want to answer this last question?
Yes, certainly. You should include HDB in your will because the will is part of your asset. Even though you have a joint owner, very common we find HDB ownership under joint tenancy, meaning if you have two owners, the last survivor will own the HDB 100% at the end of the day. So if currently you're having joint ownership and you are drafting a will, you should include it in your will by highlighting that in the event that your joint owner does not survive you, okay, you would like to pass this HDB to whoever that you want to pass to. Yeah. So without addressing that, okay, in the event of common disaster, if your joint partner pass away first, leaving you as the final last survivor, final owner, If you do not address this in the will, then your HDB will end up has to be distributed under the intestate law. So it is very essential that you include HDB in your will. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that I said the last question, but this question also came up quite a few times. Maybe Teck Hua, you can just answer this question and we can end the Q&A segment. This question, what is the best and safest way to keep a will? I see a few questions asking how to keep a will. Yeah, do you have an answer to this question, Teck Hua?
Best way to keep a will. I think there are a few rule of thumb. I think first of all, don't stapler, don't go and laminate your will and stuff like that. And more importantly, Claudia also mentioned that your executor needs to know exactly where to retrieve the will. So do not put your will in a safe deposit box where end of the day upon your demise, you will require a grant of probate to release the will. Then the whole thing is stuck. Or keep it in a safe where nobody knows the password. So more importantly, the most important thing is that the executor must know exactly where to retrieve the will.
Thank you, Teck Hua. Thank you, speakers. Okay, we do have a lot of questions that are unanswered, but I think that it's okay. We need to wrap things up already, and then you guys can always reach out to our speakers for any of these other questions that were not addressed. Okay, now shall we wrap things up by getting our speakers to share some final tips with us on setting up, creating a will or a trust? Yeah, Claudia, would you like to go first?
Sorry.
Claudia, you want to go first?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Now, I encourage everyone to start your planning today and don't leave things to chance. Estate and legacy planning can have positive, lasting impact if you put plans in place and execute them. So take that first step. Don't be afraid to explore how you could utilize planning to your own advantage. Cost is an important consideration, but it shouldn't be the sole factor when deciding between a will and a trust.
Thank you.
Justin.
Thank you. Yes, Claudia is right. Everyone has the capacity and can have the will to plan. And actually leaving things to chance implies that whatever happens, we can accept and live with the consequences. But, is that really what you want to do with all the wealth that you have spent your whole life working hard for? Yeah. Halyn, how about you?
Yes, thanks, Justin. Yeah, I know that we are not able to address a lot of the questions that comes in, especially on trust, because some things can get quite technical, and this is just may not be the appropriate space to dive into those things. I just wanted to say that trust is a very versatile solution, right, and can be used to achieve different purposes. It's very flexible in estate planning. So whether you want to address specific concern or use the solution as a very comprehensive estate plan. So the choice really depends on your specific needs and objective, right, for managing and distributing your wealth. But again, I highly encourage our audience to reach out to your financial advisors and estate planners for a conversation if you're interested to find out more.
Thank you, Halyn, for once again sharing with us the value-added benefits of trust. So how about you, lastly, Teck Hua?
Okay, as for me, I have recently contributed a 3-part article on writing a good will, and it's posted on the Poems Market Journal website. The 3rd installment is coming out soon. So in this article, I'll talk about which group of people are more in need of a will. What are the common pitfalls, or what are the key considerations when planning your will. So you can actually scan the code for the link to the articles, or you can always contact anyone, any of us here, for more advice. Justin?
Thank you, Teck Hua. Yes, shout out to our Poems Market Journals and articles. We'll put the link on the chat for everyone here. And yes, we do have many interesting articles on wealth-related topics, including wills and trusts, authored by our financial specialists. So all uploaded there, so do check it out. Or you can also just follow us on our Facebook and Instagram page to get the latest updates on such content. Yeah, we will share them there as well. Okay. So, all right, I think that, now that we have covered the differences and benefits of wills and trusts, I hope everyone here has benefited from tonight's webinar. So once again, you may connect with any one of our speakers tonight if you wish to understand more on creating a will or setting up a trust or any other financial related matters. We have come to the end of tonight's session, and I would like to thank our 3 expert speakers for their unreserved and open sharing, and a big thank you to everyone here who has stayed with us thus far. So do join us for our future Ask Me Anything episodes as well, and we would love to have you here again. Yeah, thanks everyone. See you and good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you. Good night.